Blood Red Sky, out on Netflix, new horror film that's done partly in German, partly in English. It has a really interesting central idea that made me think of movies like Flight Plan, but also Train to Busan as its influences. The film starts with a young boy and his mother getting on a plane in Germany. They're flying to the US. The mother is very clearly sick. She's completely bald, wears a wig, she looks not quite alright, and we learn that she's going to the States to meet up with some doctors who may have a plan to cure her. When the plane takes off, it is hijacked by a group of mercenaries that infiltrated the crew and the passengers, and it is unclear at the beginning what their plan is specifically, but in time we do learn that they change course. They plan to crash the plane in London for whatever reason after jumping out with parachutes. And then there's a twist related to the mother's illness, which I really don't want to spoil, but if you've seen the trailer, you know it already. It's even shown on the poster if you take a good look, and also many of Netflix's own promotional materials, which is kind of baffling because it's really one of those movies which would benefit from going in blind and being surprised by the direction it goes in. Because if you don't know what to expect, I think the movie does a really solid job of blindsiding you until the twist is revealed. And when it is, the movie becomes something completely else than you thought it would be. But here's the thing. As I was watching it, I thought it was really competently made. It establishes the characters in a clear way. It is very adept at using the small confined space and the items, tools and other plot devices that are available there. Each time a character uses some sort of unusual equipment, it is either shown directly where they get it from, or in most cases it was established earlier in the film that that thing is on board for a very specific reason. In that way the movie is pretty tight and clever, and also the characters are pretty smart. But I did say there would be a but. That tightness is maintained for about, I'd say, 80 minutes or so, after which the movie overstays its welcome. Now, this may very well be my personal opinion, but I was really enjoying myself for a time. The movie steadily increases the tempo and the levels of chaos and confusion on board as things spiral out of control. And then there's a moment where it all slows down, the characters get some breath, we all get relaxed, and then we get into it again for another 30 minutes or so. And I just felt that that last act was too much. It was too drawn out, to the point that I went from all smiles to checking the clock and wondering how much longer it's going to go for. Because it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. Unfortunately becoming tedious. Especially with one of the main characters being a little kid who just screams for his mom most of the time. I mean, listen, I don't like kids in movies in general. I think they're mostly bad at acting, and this one is no exception. Which, overall, it's a shame because, speaking again about the runtime and the pacing, I wouldn't necessarily cut any of the specific major plot points. I would keep the story mostly as it is, but just shorten each of the windows. Cut a few seconds here, a few seconds there, maybe reduce the flashbacks, which also slow things down. I really do believe there was a possibility to cut the movie down for time without compromising the storyline as it is, because as it stands, it was just too long for me. It should have been about an hour and a half, and it goes for just over 2 hours, and that unfortunately means that despite the fact that I loved the premise and enjoyed many elements of its execution, I just cannot in good conscience wholly endorse a film in which I spent the last half hour being bored out of my mind. But of course, opinions are subjective, and I think if you're more into horror films specifically, you may enjoy it all the way through. It is certainly worth at least checking out.